Hello and welcome. I'm Jenny Hall. Thanks for joining me for another card making tutorial. I have a project to share with you today. It is a card, but it's also an invitation. My youngest son, Nate, who you've heard me talk about, is turning 6 years old in just a few weeks. He asked me to make his party invitations, which really meant a lot to me because he knows what I do for my work, but he doesn't really understand how he can use these projects other than sending out a card to someone that he cares for. So when I told him, yes, I'll make your invitations and let's pick something out so that we can use them for together in the project, he really became excited and involved in the process. So let's get started and see exactly how this was such a fun project to create. The invitations have the images stamped from Happy Day stamp set from Waffle Flower. And I needed to bring in a second stamp that would include the invitation information for the party. I'm going to use a piece of watercolor paper, and I have placed it into the Mini MISTI, and my children absolutely love using this Mini MISTI for doing their stamping. Especially special needs kids, there's any way to get them involved in the process, then it makes it so much more of a connection. I'm stamping it with Hero Art's Intense Black ink, which is my new favorite ink pad. It works well for alcohol marker and it dries quickly and doesn't bleed if I use it for watercoloring. This is an old set of watercolors I have that's still available for purchase. It's called the Prima Watercolor Confections, and this is the classic set. I'm going to use the Waffle Flower Water Media Matte for doing all my coloring today, and I have spritzed in some water, just regular tap water, into the little wells, and then I am taking the water brush and using some of the water to put concentrated color down into those wells. I'm using the wet on wet watercolor technique. As you can see, I ran the brush over the bear first, and this allows, whenever I touch the brush with ink to that wet area, it's going to spread out evenly and not leave so many harsh marks on my paper. I've had really great success with this method. I feel really comfortable with it, and it didn't take me long as a beginning artist to be able to say to myself, if I use wet on wet, it's much less stress. So I'm going to use the wet on wet technique for most of this image here. And I've moved some of the color out that I wanted to have diluted onto the actual mat. This water media mat is exactly what I have been waiting for in an art supply to be able to allow me to do heat embossing, watercoloring, ink smushing, everything all in one tool. And I can tell you, my friends, it is a godsend. I love it. It's wonderful, and my kids love it too. I'm holding my finger on the edge of the panel just to keep it down from buckling a little bit, but the mat actually grabs a hold of my paper and keeps it from moving, so it's really nice to work with. Some of the areas that I wanted to be darker, I'm able to take the water brush directly over to the pan and bring up some of that color, and that's one thing I like about using this type of affordable watercoloring, is that you can use it much more concentrated, or you can dilute it and get a much more translucent look. I'm filling in all of the areas of the sky and of the grass, of all of the images, and making sure that I don't have any extra white spaces where they're not supposed to be. This mat cleans up very easy. I'm taking the bulk of the ink with my paper towel, and then I'm using a baby wipe to clean it up, and as you can see, it cleans up very nicely. I can heat emboss on this mat. It is truly wonderful. So this is going to be one of like 30 different invitations because we needed to have quite a lot of them. Now I'm going to use a scrap piece of the same watercolor paper and use the same set of paints to just put some brown and grays down because we want to have the invitation portion, and I thought it would be nice to appear as if the bear was pulling a wagon that had a sign in it that said you're invited. And this way was really easy for me to be able to just make a whole big giant assembly line and have my son in the process and be able to have them with the products and the supplies that I have on hand. And I'm not sure if you guys have checked, but it's really expensive to go and buy pre-made invitations that have a character theme on them. And we priced it out and it was going to be like $40. So that's why we really went the route of using the craft supplies that we had on hand. So if you have a question about why I'm going to all this trouble to make the invitations for my son's party, then it's because it was a lot more affordable for us to do this and to get him involved in the process too. On the background is a piece of designer paper from Stampin' Up that I had left over, and I am just adhering everything down with double-sided foam tape. Now I'm making the little sign that has "You're invited" by just some foam tape and glue, and I will glue that in place on the front of the card or in front of the invitation. And so now it looks like it's supposed to be in the scene with the bear. Isn't that just too cute? Here's a white jelly roll pen that I'm using to add some accents. I think that the white pen really livened up the images, and I'm using a black pen to add some of those same looks and then connect a few of the things that didn't come together in the stamping. And of course my son wanted to have the bear have a smile. Here is more of the "You Are Invited" stamp set from Pinkfresh, and this is really going to go a long way for a lot of invitation making. I hope that you have enjoyed what Nathaniel's party invitations are going to look like, friends. He, again, is really excited to have this whole birthday celebration, and this party invitation is making it real for him. It's going more from theory of birthday to, wow, my birthday is almost here. So it's a big deal for our family. If you have any questions about the project that I've created or about the products that I've used, then just leave me a comment down below, and all the information that you might need, as well as a link to get to my blog post to download the free PDF, is also down below in the video description. If you don't know how to get to the video description, don't worry. There's usually a little arrow, or some people call it a carrot, that you have to click, and then that opens up a whole long list of things that YouTube creators type out and list in their video description. And that's how you get to the video description. If you have any questions about that, I'm really happy to help. Thanks again for joining me today. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching the video. Have a good day.